I am sure there's going to be a lot of questions. Please note that you have to listen very, very carefully today as we cover things so that there's less questions you have to ask. Because you already know that if there are a lot of questions that you are asking, it eats into our training time, which means you learn less every single day. So that's my only caveat. Also, please don't unmute yourself. That's not appreciated because it's a call with a lot of people. Just please put all of your concerns in the chat. The way to gain visibility in the chat also is not to say one thing like multiple times. It is to just put your question in the chat once and not make it very, very long. All right. So, with those being like the basic requirements from you for this 1 hour, let's just start with the speaker roles. So, yesterday we had discussed the BP format, how many teams go in the BP format, how are they divided, which side are they on, what are their names, what are the small, like short forms for those names, so that you don't have to say opening government, opening opposition, closing government, and closing opposition over and over again. And we discussed how the speakers proceed as to how you cannot give consecutive speeches from the same team. So prime minister cannot give a speech. Deputy prime minister cannot give a speech right after prime minister because there has to be one person from the other team going between two speakers from the same team. So the order is already there. The deck was shared yesterday. That deck will also have the slides for today. So, and we will share the recording as well. So please keeping all of that in mind, listen to what speaker roles mean, how they're supposed to be done. Ask questions only if necessary, if you've been listening carefully and there's something I've obviously missed. All right, cool. Starting then. So we've got speaker roles. Obviously, I think the word is self-explanatory, speaker and roles. So like if you're a speaker, let's say prime minister, what is your role as the prime minister in the debate? This is to say that what is it that you have to do as the prime minister or as the leader of opposition or as the DPM, DLO, whichever speaker? What are you supposed to do in order to get good speaker scores as that respective speaker? Because the thing about this team is that the thing about this format is that obviously team effort counts, but then the team effort is also made up of speaker one, their performance, and speaker and the second speaker's performance, which means individual performance has to be great so as in order for this team to do well, right? So given that, what do you do as a prime minister or leader of opposition? See, both of these speaker roles are similar because they are first speakers, okay? So because they are first speakers, they are similar. What do they do? Prime minister and leader of opposition, there's a couple of things they are meant to do. First, they're supposed to set up the debate. So, like, for example, think about how a storybook starts, right? Or like a novel starts. When you read a novel, are you directly thrown into the action? Like, let's say if there is a novel, have you ever read a novel which starts like this, that Dorothea was fighting Cecilia without telling you who Dorothea and Cecilia are? Not quiet. So, how novels work is that there is always a setup. So, once upon a time, there was some town, and then in this town, and in that particular century, something happens. This means that they tell you where the debate, like where something is happening and who are the people involved. It's the same kind of setup that you need in a debate as well. So, before making an argument, you're supposed to tell us where is this debate happening, in what sort of like on the timeline, where does it lie? For example, if it is a debate about, let's say, the Indian independence movement, it's not a debate that's happening in present, right? It's a debate that's happening in the past. So you're going to have to mention that. You have to debate according to and the understand your understanding your understanding of the debate has to be based in the past, right? So you're supposed to think of it as like the time before partition, when people did not have enough technology, or India was not an independent country, was not a democracy. How would people behave in that time? You can't be debating on Indian independence struggle, but be talking about today and like say that hey, people can do this or that because we're a democracy. Because if you're assuming India is a democracy, then you're not keeping in mind when this debate is happening. This debate is happening in the past and not in the present, right? Likewise, there are some debates. For example, this house
Ram, could
believes
you
that
please repeat yourself? I couldn't hear you very well.
is that an individual problem or is everybody having a hard time listening to me?
Ma'am, your voice
Ma'am,
is
it's fine.
breaking in
Ma'am,
the
it's
middle.
quite clear
Ma'am, your
from
voice
your
is
to go a little bit
individual.
low.
Okay,
Indi-
okay,
Yeah,
okay, got it, got
it's
it.
breaking
Nitisha,
a
you can
little.
just slow down a little. Otherwise, we could all hear you.
Okay, all right. So basically, please, first of all, please lower your hands. That just kind of like makes it difficult for me to follow because I'm constantly looking at people who are raising their hands. Right. Okay. So basically, the first speakers are supposed to do a setup. The setup involves answering three questions. Write them down. First one, where is this debate happening? Is it happening in the past, present, future? What does this world look like? For example, if your debate is happening in the present, what does the present look like? This is a world where technology is rampant. This is also a world where perhaps there is a little bit of identity politics. This is a world where people privilege education a lot. So education matters a lot, right? But this is also a world where violence, etc., is not preferred and diplomacy is the norm. So, how do you define the world in general for us as the judge to like for you for us to understand your own understanding of where the debate is happening? So, first question you answer is where is this debate taking place? The second question you answer is who are the stakeholders in this debate? All right. So basically, stakeholders are the people who are impacted by the debate that's taking place. For example, if there's a debate about, let's say, this house believes that teachers should be paid according to how their students perform. If this is the topic, then it's going to be the students, the teacher, and maybe the parents as well, who are going to be the stakeholders. Now, these stakeholders are important because it is on them that we base our debate, right? So, like, if who are we trying to benefit? The children. Who do we think can benefit the children? The teacher. Who is trying to fund your education? The parents. So, the parents' efforts also become important in determining the future of the child. So, this is how you find out the people in the debate, how they are related to each other, and just like what is their role in this particular debate. All right. So, all of those things are important. Now, the third question you answer is what do the terms in the motion mean? All right. So, like if there is a term in the motion, for example, parents, you might think,
So let me give an example. If the debate is about should we ban zoos, should we ban zoos? Who do you think the stakeholders are? Who are the impacted parties? Just put it on the chat.
Ma'am, could you please repeat the notes that you told us to write?
So you can listen to the recording once again. But what she's discussing right now is what is the first speaker supposed to do? So I'm asking you all a question that if I were to say, should we ban zoos? Then who are the impacted parties in that? Abir, be on mute, please. All of you, please be on mute if you're not speaking.
Ma'am, can you tell the last question?
Okay, perfect. I can see some of the answers coming. So this is what stakeholders are. So the owners, the animal
Ma'am,
work.
can you send in the chat what to write?
Please be on silent. Don't unsilence yourself. Yes. Anybody who's impacted by the zoo and in the zoo, it becomes the stakeholders. The animals, people who work in the zoos, people who visit the zoos, people who probably are funding the zoos, so people who are putting in money to fund the zoos, and the people probably who are making documentaries of it. So somebody who is probably earning off the zoo, somebody who's applying or supplying materials to the zoo. So what she's saying is there are two things you have to hear as a first speaker. And Nitisha, just let me know when you're back. Is the first
I'm
thing is
ready
the
to go.
fact you got where is this debate happening? Which is the time para? Is it before independence? Is it in the prehistoric time? Is it in the present time of 2024? Second is identify the stakeholders. Carry on, Nitisha. So they've understood the stakeholder concept very well, which is excellent.
What are the questions? Can you repeat?
No, please, we'll keep moving now. Carry on, Nitisha.
Okay, listen to me. Everybody needs to work like as if everybody, I mean, it's a collective, right? Please listen to each other. If you missed something, you will have the recording. If you missed something, put it in the chat. Okay, moving on. The terms in the motion now. So basically, there are words in the motion, right? Like obviously, a motion or a topic is nothing but like an assemblage of words. So you have to first decide what are the important words in this motion. And important does not just always mean fancy words that not many people know the meaning of. Important words are also words like parents, right? You might think everybody knows the meaning of what a parent means because, I mean, everybody has one, etc. But everybody might have a different understanding of who a parent is in terms of the role they play in your life, in terms of their importance, in terms of how they should conduct themselves in your life, etc. This means that when you're defining the word, you're defining the word not because you think that people don't know its meaning. You're defining it because you think people have different meanings. And for us to debate on something, we need to be on the same page as far as the meaning is concerned. For example, I should be able to tell on side proposition that we think of parents as actors who can be both good and bad. There aren't always good, there aren't always good parents. There are also sometimes parents who are careless, who like, or perhaps parents who don't deliberately want to harm their child, but inadvertently, not knowingly they do. So, for example, conservative parents, etc. And then on the other hand, you have a characterization or like the definition of parents as people who will never do you any harm, as people who are the best actors. So do you understand? You have a very contesting sort of an idea of who parents are. Likewise, teachers. Some people might think that teachers are teaching as part of a job, which means that their salary should be given to them no matter what, like regardless of the child's performance. But then some other people might think that no, teachers aren't just people who are doing this because they get paid for it. They're also in here because they wish to create a change and like a difference. And so if they get paid based on the performance of their students, it's a fair call, because making any effort should not count as like a cause worthy of a salary. Just making targeted effort which is going to give good outcomes in terms of people scoring well should be rewarded with a salary. So basically, different people have different understandings of different words. That's why we define the important words in a motion. Okay. So for example, I'll give you a topic. Tell me which do you think are the important words in this topic, right? So glorification of struggle stories. If this house believes that glorification of struggle stories does more harm than good, then what are the important words in this motion that you might want to define before you in the first speech? Glorification and struggle stories. Good.
Hmm.
Some people are saying glorification, some people are saying only struggle stories. If you're saying only glorification or only stories, you're not entirely right. You will be entirely right when you are talking about glorification and struggle stories as two important words in the motion. There can be more than one important word, okay? You don't always have to pick one important word. That's not how it works. All right, then I think we understand this concept. So this is called the setup. In the setup, I'm repeating myself here. There's three questions you answer. First, where is this debate happening? Right? Second, who are the people in this debate that are involved? And third, what do the important terms in the motion mean? That's the job of the first speaker. All right. And this should take, let's say, 2 minutes of your 5 minute long speech. If you're doing this setup for more than 2 minutes, there's probably something wrong, because a setup should not exceed the amount of time you set aside for the arguments. Obviously, arguments are supposed to take more time because that's the basis of you winning or losing, right? It's not the framing. So setup has to be restricted to 2 minutes max. After that, you start with your arguments. So you as a first speaker will first give a setup like I explained, and then you will give us all the arguments that your side has. Do not divide your arguments between each other. Don't say that my second speaker will do the other two arguments and I'm doing the first two arguments. That's not how it works. How it works is that you do all of the arguments, but you don't have to analyze them very much, because we understand you will not have as much time. So it's okay for the first speaker to only superficially define explain the arguments that you have as a team, and the second speaker will come in and do justice to them by analyzing them more acutely. All right. So this is all that the first speaker does, prime minister and leader of opposition. You set up the debate, and then you explain some the arguments that you are going to make or your teammate is going to make, etc. Now, leader of opposition is different from prime minister only insofar as leader of opposition can also rebut prime minister. Obviously, prime minister can't rebut anybody because nobody delivers a speech before the prime minister. Okay. So from leader of opposition onwards, you should rebut the speaker who went before you. All right.
So just
So-
once again, Nitisha, so for students who are doing this for the first time, rebuttal is to reply back. And what ma'am is saying is the first speaker cannot reply back. Because he pretty much started the debate. Okay, so he's not rebutting anything. He's just starting it out. Okay. Okay, carry on, Nitisha.
Yeah, so basically, what we're looking at is that the first speakers do this much, what's been told, and now it's about the second speakers. So, what do the second speakers do? Like, after your first speaker is gone, and after the first speaker from the other side's gone, you're the third or the fourth speaker in this debate. You are the speaker as a second speaker, like both DPM and DLO. They have access to both the sides or like both the cases. I know my case because my prime minister shared it, and I know their case because their LO shared it. Now I am supposed to take this all in and do two things which you can remember as the two R's. All right. So the second speaker does the first R is rebuilding, and the second R is rebut. So the second speaker rebuts. What does that mean? See, rebutting is easy. Rebuttal is somebody says something, I don't agree with it. I give my reasons of why I don't agree with what they say. You're supposed to rebut the arguments that the other side makes. For example, I say that look, carpooling is not such a good idea for environmental concerns to be alleviated. We think people should switch to, let's say, public transport, metro perhaps. So you can rebut me by saying that no, carpooling is not, I mean, public transport is not the easiest way. That's why carpooling is better, because public transport, if everybody like resorts to public transport, then there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to take that metro, and then we don't have enough capacity for all of those people in India, which means you're going to have to make more infrastructure for public transport to be used, and that's not something that we can afford at the moment. And then you can say carpooling is much easier because everybody has their cars, they're probably just driving it alone, which means that it's easier to put friends on the way and drop them off. So that's a more doable sort of an exercise. Do you all understand? Okay. Now, about member of government and the rest of the speeches in the closing half. In the closing half, you have member speeches. Okay, this is member of government and member of op. So also, okay, so rebuttal was that. I'm sorry, I missed this. So the second speaker also does rebuilding. Now, rebuilding means my first speaker said something and nobody, I mean, the other side tried to attack it. So what I do in rebuilding is I try to say that what my first speaker said still stands because the other speaker's attack were not fair or legitimate. So rebuilding you do for your own case, rebuttals you do against the other side's case. Rebuilding means I make the same argument that my first speaker made, but with more analysis, more examples, more comparisons, so that it is more convincing. That's called rebuilding. And rebutting is when you respond to somebody else's arguments from the other side. Okay. Now, on to the member speeches. Member of government is supposed to actually carry forward the debate by first commenting on the opening case. So, for example, you have started the debate as closing government, but you also know that an opening debate already happened, right? This means that you're supposed to comment on it. What did you think about its quality? You can say, hey, the opening government, like the opening benches did really well, but we think they did not cover so and so aspect in the debate, which we are going to be covering. So the role of the member speaker is to explain what the opening did, why it was not sufficient, or like why it was not enough, and how you are going to fill in that blank and make this a better debate. So member explains how they are the better team and why they should win over their opening. Okay, you give the extra arguments, you prove why, how you are the better side, etc. That's what member speakers do. Now coming to the whip speakers. Whip speakers are supposed to compare the keyword. See, there are keywords for each speech, right? So like for this, there's two R's, there's rebuttals and rebuilding. All right. For prime minister, you can remember this as setup and then arguments, right? Now, member of government, what did I tell you? They give the new arguments, or like they have the onus of presenting a case which will stand out and will make the judge believe that you are in fact adding value in the debate. And government and whip speakers are supposed to compare. So the keyword for them is definitely compare. You have to compare what has happened so far and why you are the worthy winners. You're supposed to say, okay, if I am government whip, I will say CG is better than OG for so and so reasons. We think CG is better than OO for so and so reasons. CG is better than CO for so and so reasons, and that's why we think CG wins. That's what a whip speaker does. Both GovWhip and OpWhip do that thing. All right. And with that, these are your speaker roles. Let's just take questions in the chat for the next 2 minutes. I'll open chat for questions for the next 2 minutes, which should be till 7:1. So ask away right now till 7:1. I won't take any questions after 7:1. I'll take them in the next slot then.
Ahan, put your questions in the chat. You have 2 minutes, so let's not miss it.
Also, one more thing, please don't tell me to repeat anything because there's a lot we need to cover. And if you need repetition, you will have ample time for it. And you can literally go through everything as many times as you like using the recording, right? So because we are recording, we will not be repeating.
Yeah, just focus on putting the questions that are coming. Abhi, on the chat, please, no raising hands, I said. Just put it on the chat so that we can get a sense of what are the questions in your head.
Okay, I'll start going through the questions once and then come back to the ones that I think are important. Now we can stop asking questions, please. I think we're already flooded. Okay. Okay, let's see. So basically, can deputy PM rebut? Yes, they can. Any speaker who goes besides, I mean, just PM is the only speech in which you can't rebut. In every other speech, you can rebut. Yes, that clears. Can you explain? I will not take Ahan's question because he's I mean, see, 3 times you're putting the same question. This is not how I'll give you visibility. Skipping it. What is draw release and motion release? Draw release is when teams you're told which side you're going to be on. That happens just a few minutes before the debate. And motion release is when we release the motion for you to prepare on. Okay. So like when we decide that it's time to release the motion now, that's called motion release. It happens 15 minutes before the debate starts. I didn't get what government whip and opposition whip do. So you can watch the recording. That's a long explanation. Why are whips important? Because they compare, and comparison is important for the judge to understand which side should win. Please brush upon the judging criteria yet to happen. Aditi, can we give POIs between speeches? Yes, you can. I'll explain them yet to come. What is the DLO's role? You'll watch the recording. Can you explain what do you mean by terms and speaker and how can we find terms? Terms means words in the topic. And you find terms by thinking about it, like which is a topic which you think can be defined in multiple ways, and how would you like to define it? Can you explain glorification and struggle stories? We never discussed it. We were just trying to say that these are the two important words in the motion, and that's it. We never discussed that motion yet. Okay. If I see you guys doing what Ahan you're doing right now, like putting the same question 7, 8 times in the chat, I'm sorry, but this is not the conduct I want in the session. Are we allowed to give POIs between speeches, and are there any rules governing giving respectful time-bound POIs? Yes, but we'll cover them in the time to come. Okay. Don't ask about POIs. I haven't covered them yet. Yes, I think Janvi's question is really nice. Can we correct definitions given by the opening government and opening op? Yes, you can. You can always try to correct or rectify the definitions if you think they are flawed from the other side. Is the whip not allowed to elaborate the arguments presented by the member and are only meant to? No, whip can elaborate, but you can elaborate while making comparisons, because comparison is very, very important for you. So if you can find the time to do analysis as well, sure, you can do that. But whip's most important work is comparison. How are the whips comparison going to be effective? I mean, I've already answered this question. The roles for government goes same for opposition. Didn't quite get that. How to dissect a motion and look at it in a way that stats can be ignored and the argument, we haven't covered that yet. We will. Will you guys be telling us if we are the governor op? Yes, we will. Aren't the member speakers at a disadvantage by going second in the same argument where majority of points are already mentioned? No, they are not. And even if they are, this is how the format works. We're going to have to make peace with it. So basically, the government whip gives a biased opinion, right? Yes. Yeah, that's right. You can call it a biased judgment of sorts. As a member of the government, are we to specifically point out any issue with the case of the OG? Yeah, sure. I mean, that's how you win, by saying that they didn't do enough and we are. So that's why give us a debate. What is member of government? Okay, you can watch the recording for that. My teammate and I registered today only, so could we please get the recording? Yes, you will. Should deputy speaker also do a similar thing like the whip saying while opening government? Yeah, sure. Deputies can also weigh and tell us why you think you win. Okay. You don't have to note down anything. We will be sharing this PPT with you. Is member of government supposed to rebut DLO too? Yes. As my doubt cannot be explained in chat. No, Gyansh, that's not fair. Please put it in the chat. What will be the difference between PM and DPM's role? PM starts and DPM carries it forward. That's the difference. Can the member speakers rebut? Yes, they can. How long should the member speakers spend on commenting on the top half? Basically, 2 minutes, a minute and a half, depends on how good the opening case was. If it was really good, then you might want to talk about it a little more, because otherwise you will lose by not like taking them down. But you're supposed to decide that about how much time you're going to give it, based on based on your understanding of the quality of the debate in the opening half. Okay. If you're telling me to explain something, you're going to watch the recording because everything is explained in it. And once you listen to it by yourself and at your own pace, you'll understand. No policy. Please don't assume things. No models are required. No policy debates are happening here because I haven't mentioned any such thing, right? If something is about to happen, I'm going to tell you. So please don't assume. Yeah, rebuttals are part of the speech. That's a fair question, Samarth. I don't get what Deputy Prime Minister and Deputy Leader of Opposition do. They just extend on the case that the first speaker makes and just try to make it sound better and like more comprehensive and less vulnerable. Prime Minister can, it's not called pre-rebut, it's called preemption. You can guess what your op might say and then say that this will not stand for so and so reasons. Okay, I think we're sorted. Okay, yeah, I've taken all the questions. Also, if you watch this recording once again, I think it'll be a lot of help to you all. fairly speaking, because a lot of you are just asking me to repeat things. I understand in this hour-long call, you might not be able to grasp everything, but watching the recording will make all the difference, I promise you. Okay, a couple of guidelines, okay, rules about the tournament that you need to familiarize yourself with. The tournament should be a safe experience for everyone, obviously. There are some guidelines which we all need you to understand, right? First of all, the team should not personally attack or use slurs at any individual or anything tantamount to bullying. This is to say that, see, you have to be very fair in how you deal with your teammates, right? You can't be rude to them. You can't say, hey, our teammates aren't making sense. They are silly, stupid, foolish. We tend to say all those things in passing as if, I mean, also not because we like mean ill. It's just that something, these are just things that come to our mind and like, fall out of our mouth. But let's just ensure we are keeping it a very safe experience where nobody slurs anyone and we are only attacking the argument and not the person. All right. You should also try not to talk about certain communities as bad communities, as communities which are not good enough. We make those generalizations because we don't know about those communities. So please be respectful of communities. Please think about it as if you were a part of that community. Would you like to hear something bad about your community being said in a debate? Obviously not, right?
I do also want to say that though this is Indian qualifiers, which means the teams who are participating is from India, but the judges will also come across from the globe. So just be mindful of being respectful to the communities that you talk about and how you talk about it. Okay, that's the decorum that we expect out of you. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nitisha.
The other very important thing, this is one of the most important things as far as ethics are concerned. It's about how you interact with the judges you're going to get. First of all, making this very, very clear, like in any other tournament, in this tournament as well, the judge's decision is going to be final and binding. This means that if the judge has delivered their verdict and if they have given you the justification for it, nothing can persuade us to change that verdict because we think the judges are very, very qualified people who judge in different tournaments almost every weekend. All right. So the judge's decision is going to be final. Please don't question it. Learn from it. They are very qualified people. Secondly, they will be giving you an oral adjudication of about 7 to 10 minutes, and they will also be giving you the space to ask them questions. Utilize that space. This is very important for those who want to grow as debaters, and I think that should be most of you since a lot of you are new to the format. You also need to ensure that you're not communicating with the judge while the debate is on through the chat or any other medium. Because one, the judges have been strictly prohibited from talking to debaters besides their speeches. The only time the judge is going to listen to what you're saying is when you say something during the speech. If you make any clarification in the chat box saying, Judge, I never said this person is saying so and so, but like you understand that my argument is better, right? Those kind of requests are not right. They're underhand and they're not going to be appreciated by the judge. And they're going to report about that. So please don't communicate with the judge in the middle of a debate uh, at any given point in time. Also, don't annotate on my screen. This is, I mean, for those of you who don't know, we can see who's annotating, all right? Give
Yeah.
me a second. Let me just.
No, I
know.
don't want you to restrict it. I don't expect this behavior. Not again, please. Don't do that, please.
If you do not want to be removed from the Raj Mishra, this is your last warning.
Please stop doing this. Otherwise, you can exit the call if you are forcibly sitting over here. That's okay.
All right. So basically, judges, you need to learn how to respect that space, respect them because they're senior debaters and they're judging now. And you can't question calls, which we tend to do because we oftentimes do not have clarity on the debate because we come with personal bias. We think we should win. So don't get overwhelmed and just start questioning the verdict during the tournament. Okay. I think this slide you can access once we've shared the deck with you. Now, this is about what will the judges look at when they're trying to grade, like give you speaker scores. Three things, all right? Matter, manner, and method. Matter includes obviously the things that you are saying, like what did you come up with in the 15 minutes of prep time? What are your rebuttals like? Are they qualitatively nice? Are they actually rebuttals to an argument, or are you just going in roundabouts, not really clearing the point in question, etc.? So this is about matter. This is about how strong are your arguments, how convincing are your examples, right? How rich your analysis about things. So for example, is your setup good? Are you defining the stakeholders in an like an all-encompassing manner, or are you just doing it for the sake of doing it, just giving two stakeholders, not explaining what these stakeholders look like, etc. So matter is all about your content. Okay, what have you been able to think about in the time that you were given? 15 minutes of prep. uh manner is manner is definitely how you conduct yourself with the judge in the room, how kind you are to your teammates. If you sound very aggressive, haughty, and like a person who is perhaps offending somebody else's safe space in the room, then you will definitely be downmarked on manner. So you have to be subtle and kind and convincing. And then besides that, just being on camera, having the kind of body language that's welcoming and not threatening, etc. Use your voice well, making eye contact, just things that get you great points on manner. Method is about how do you structure your arguments. Like, it's one thing to have really good arguments, but it's quite another, like it's a different ball game when it comes to presenting those arguments, right? So for example, I might have a lot of good things to say, but if I don't know how to say it within 5 minutes of speaking time, then it's probably not going to make the maximum level of impact. This is to say that you can have great content, but you can still do really badly in the debate if you don't structure your speech. And structure should always be about how much time am I going to give to which part, to what fragment, like to what part of my speech and why. So if I'm going to set up for 2 minutes, I'm not going to exceed this 2 minutes time, like deadline, no matter what. So you need to divide your time according to how you want to use it, and then use it as such. Do not change it, because this would lead to you running out of time. This would lead to you talking about one argument for 4 minutes and then running out of time for the rest of the two arguments. So completing those two arguments in like 30 seconds each. So you understand, like giving equal time to each argument, giving it a structure, not jumping from one argument to another before finishing the first argument's analysis, are just things that count as method. It's about how you do it. So method is the how of it, matter is the what of it. Like, what are you saying is the matter, and how you're saying it is method. All right. Also, I don't quite understand why people have their hands raised, because I'm not going to take questions verbally anyway. So put it in the chat. Thank you. I'll take questions now about this marking criteria and all that I've explained. CG, what? Can CG go against OG? Yes, they can. Will the side and the motion be released together? Yes. Is it poise or pose? What is what, poise or pose?
It's poise. It's carry on. Carry on, Natisha.
Okay, how many teams go to the final round? 3 teams. Okay, what do you mean by 2 minute setup? I mean that you're supposed to give you're supposed to give the setup, like those answering those 3 questions that I talked about in the first speech, 2 minutes. If you're giving it more than 2 minutes, then you're going to run out of time for your argument. So ensure that you're finishing the setup in 2 minutes and not more. You can finish in less as well. There are 3 rounds, Abana. Do we have to as PM tell who's take? Okay, too many questions. I'll just let you put in your questions first so that I don't have to keep scrolling. Okay. Will we have a timer on the screen while speaking? Yes, you will. The judge will share their screen. What is a speaker? Can we use Hindi? No, not at all. What is a speaker supposed to do in protected time? Protected time we haven't yet discussed, so not taking questions on it. Will we be given our OAs right after the specific round or all at once? Right after the specific round is when you get your OAs. What happens if there is an internet issue? We wait for 2-3 minutes if there is an internet issue and you drop from the call. And if you don't join back, then you're not going to be allowed to give the speech, because we can't wait for very long. It delays the tournament. So please ensure you're on a stable net, like internet connection, and that you have an alternative as well, such as mobile data or whatever. Okay. Can you refer to notes while giving your speech? Yes, you may. How long should the members spend on commenting on top half? This question's already been answered, by the way. I'll do it once more for the last time. You can choose how much time you're going to spend based on the quality of the opening half speech, the debate. All right. Can we decide after the motion is released who is PM and DPM? Yes, sure. I mean, till the last moment you can decide who will be PM and who will be DPM. Nobody interferes with that. Can we get a time watch for structure? Yes, you will. Can we use Hindi poems? No, 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 no poems, no quotes. Quotes you could use, but English. This is not a multilingual competition, guys. Do we as PM have to tell who the stakeholders are in a speech? Yes. Who will allot the PM, and nobody will allot, you get to decide. Is mocking or sarcasm allowed? No, not at all. No, I don't think that's a very clean sort of a place. So we don't want any slippery slope sort of situations where you're mocking and you're being sarcastic in a playful manner and everybody gets offended by it. Can you explain how a whip is supposed to compare the speeches of the opposition and government? Yeah, for example, if this debate is about, let's say, uh, where are women better off, or like where do women feel more free, so you can say that on our side women feel more free because on our side we are allowing them to do so and so things, whatever you're allowing them to do, and on the other side that thing is not allowed to them, which means that on their side women are going to suffer more for whatever reasons you think they suffer because of, and then we are better off because we have this and they don't have that. So it's about saying this is what we do, this is what they don't do, what we are doing is good and what they're not doing is bad, and what they're doing is not good because what we're doing is better. So it's like it's always like a comparison, so like how you compare yourself with your friend or like whoever you don't like to prove that you are the better person, right? So like if somebody else knows how to play the guitar, you'd say I know how to play the piano, and between guitar and piano we think somebody might say that look, playing the guitar is a more valid sort of like a skill because you can carry your guitar around on trips, etc. You get to impress more people, but in general guitar is a very portable sort of a thing which where you can, so that it's just a skill that you can exhibit in a lot of places where piano perhaps cannot go. So that's like those are comparisons. Okay, so think something is better and then you have to explain why that is better in comparison to what the other side is proposing. Okay, could you give any example? Okay, stop asking questions now. Stop. Don't, no activity in the chat now. Let me just take the questions that are there already. Can we say like the Prime Minister said in a speech? Yes, yes, you can refer to Prime Minister and everybody. That's all right. Will we be informed beforehand about the topic? 15 minutes before. Manushri, it seems that you haven't attended any of the classes. I mean, the yesterday's class. Please watch the recording. But there will be 4 teams, right? So how will we be coordinating with? See, they're not, your team is the only team you're supposed to be coordinating with, which means the other teams are none of your business, right? So if I'm OG, I will just discuss with my teammate which speaker role they will do and which speaker role I will do, and end of story. That's it. Do we need to introduce ourselves by saying that the team numbers or we are on which side of the debate? Yeah, you can do that. Introduction is up to you. You can say, hey, I'm Nitiksha. I'll be the DPM in this debate. That's it. Could you give any example speeches for the speakers? Yes, I think we'll try to share a couple of YouTube videos which have debates in them so that this all of this is clarified. Okay. No, no, starting your speech is not something I'm going to explain because that's on you. You can just say, you can give a brief introduction. So like your name and the speaker role, and then you can just start with the setup. So that's how first speakers go. I'm not going to prescribe a structure. All right. Will marks be deducted for less time? No. Can we speak like people do at court, my lord? No, 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 no. That's not needed. Uh, what if the other half of our team performs badly? Does it affect the score? No, 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 it doesn't. So if OG doesn't do well, CG can still win. You are not related to any other team, but like your own self, your own team. So from our room, 3 teams will be selected for finals. Not from your room, Bhavya, from the entire tournament, from the 23 rooms running across 3 rounds. That's how it's decided. Don't worry yourself with how we're going to decide it because it's actually done by a software. Even we don't calculate it. So don't waste your time thinking about things you can't control and don't know how to control because it's all automated. Okay.
Yeah, just to the question that Bhavya was asking, So what happens is at the end of the debate, the ranking is happening for the 4 teams. Okay, so rank 1 is the one who wins, rank 2, rank 3, rank 4. Okay, and we have seen children who get lowest rank in round 1 can sometimes win round 2. And like we keep saying, this is about following the rules of the speaker, which is why sometimes the senior kids who don't listen into the training because they've done so many MUNs and debates tend to lose because it's about speaker roles. Okay, so don't worry about that. I don't know so much of data on the argument just because I'm 10-year, 12-year old as against a 16-year-old. Don't worry about it. It's the quality of the argument that you make. Okay, it can be intuitive. You can flesh it a little, right? So it's about, and the topics are not going to be so difficult. Their topics are going to be something which will be intuitive for you. Yeah, so if you're, so the point you're asking Viraj is that even if you're rank 4 in your first debate, because you're playing 3 rounds, right, the software will calculate basis that. Okay, so don't worry about the results right now. Right now, the focus is on getting trained, watching loads of practice debates, building great chemistry with your partner. Okay, so we'll just focus on that. Let's focus on what we can control, which is always the input and the effort you make, not about the results right now. Yes, Nitiksha, ma'am.
Okay, I don't think there are any other questions which which aren't repeat. So if we get rank 4, will we get selected? Yes, you may. You might get selected if you have better rank in other rounds. So it's completely subjective. Like we said, please don't be bothered about the results yet. Just do your best in the rounds for now. Individual marks don't matter in selection. Team performance matters. Okay. No, I don't think you can be away from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Kabir. That way you will definitely be missing at least one round, which isn't something that you would want for yourself. So you will have to keep yourself available.
Correct. And I've just posted the schedule on your WhatsApp group as well, but I'm quite clear 2:30 to 8:30. Please commit your time to the debates.
Okay, Zoya's question seems to be a good one. Can CG have a different setup as compared to OG? Yes, you may have a different setup. That's not an issue. You just need to explain why your setup is more relevant or why you decided to deny OG setup in the first place. Give reasons for it, that is. Yes, yes, Viraj, everybody gets to play all the rounds alike. So it does not matter if you are winning or losing. 3 rounds, assuredly, you're going to be participating in without fail. Okay, I think with that, we're done with the questions. And I'll just quickly take you through this as well about. So this, okay, you're going to get all of this, all right? This is, once you get all of this, it's going to be easy for you to understand. Also here, there is a word mentioned, knife, on closing government, second point. Do not knife your opening bench. See, knifing means I say something as your opening and you say that what our opening said was wrong or like they shouldn't have said it. That's called knifing. You're not allowed to do knifing. You may not agree with your opening. Like if you're CG, you might not agree with OG. If you're CO, you might not agree with OO, but you can't say it out loud. You have to keep it in you and you can choose to ignore that point if you don't like your opening's point, but you can't say they are wrong or you can't say that you differ from them. You can just say that you are better than them. You can't say you differ from them. If you say you differ from them or you don't like what they're saying, then you are knifing them and knifing is not allowed. Okay. Yeah, you'll be getting access to all of these things. Now, I quickly want to cover point of information as well, and how to prepare within 15 minutes is something I will cover tomorrow before we start the mock debate. Okay. So basically, points of information are the questions you can ask your opposing teams. So first of all, who can ask a question to whom? Okay. So this is important. It is basically OG. Let's start with OG. Okay, let me take you back to that table to first understand who can ask whom a POI. Yes, this. So
Folks,
look,
can you please stop the chat on the results right now? Trust me, we will focus on that tomorrow. Right now, be very clear on the rules. So just hear it over here. Focus on here. No more chatting.
so see, OG can ask OO a POI and CO a POI. Okay, because they are your obvious opponents. We were talking about the obvious opponents that every team has, right? Now, who are the obvious opponents of like OO? Who are you obviously against as OO? Two teams that you can ask a POI in the chat, please. Answers. Good. For those of you who are saying OGCG. Yeah, OG and CG. So OO can ask OG and CG a POI. Who can CG ask a POI? CG. Questions changed, guys. Yeah, OO and CO. Okay, good.
What was the question?
No, nobody's listening like that.
Sani, hold on. You can listen to the next question.
O and CO. Okay. Now stop. Another question. CO can ask which two teams a POI if they want. All right, precisely, yes. Yeah, so everybody understands now. You can ask your two obvious opponents a POI. If you're on side opposition, you're going to ask the government teams a POI. If you're on government, you're going to ask the opposition teams a POI. Now we are clear on who asks a POI. Cool. Now let's look at how you can ask a POI. All right. The who part of it is done. Let's see how it's done in a debate room. Since this is a Zoom call where everything will be happening, it's online. We'll keep that in mind. All right. So first of all, if you want to ask a question, your question should be written beforehand before you raise your hand to like ask it, and it should be 15 seconds long only. You can't have a very long question that goes into pages and pages. So 15 seconds and you have to cut it. So it has to be very crisp. Secondly, a POI can only be offered in the first and the last, cannot be offered in the first and the last minute of the speech. So let's say you start here, 0 seconds, and then the first minute. This is a time where nobody can ask you a POI. Okay. Likewise, the last minute, which would be the 4th minute to the 5th minute. Nobody can ask you a POI. This is for you to introduce and conclude your speech. The time in between though, so basically the 2nd minute, the first to second minute, 2nd to 3rd minute, 3rd to 4th minute, these 3 minutes is when people can ask you a POI. All right. So this is called protected time. This is protected time, the first minute, and the last minute is protected time. Why is it called protected? Simply because you are protected in this time. Nobody can attack you with a POI. This is unprotected time, 2 to 4, because everybody can ask you a POI. I mean, not everybody. The teams which qualify as your obvious opponents can ask you a POI in this time. Okay, now this is about when. Now let's discuss how. So basically, let's assume that there's speakers in the room, okay? And there's a speaker delivering a speech. Let's say Kabir is delivering a speech and he's delivering. Assume that he's saying something. And if I am his opponent and I want to ask a POI, I will say POI OO in the chat like this. Okay? This would mean that I am OO and I want to ask you a POI. This is a hint for Kabir in the middle of his speech to either take my POI or decline it. This means that a POI can be dealt with in two ways. Without listening to the POI, you can either accept it or decline it. But you cannot decline the POI after you have been asked the POI. So for example, now, if let's say somebody asks me a POI, right? Somebody put it in the chat that, hey, POI from OO, and I'm CG. I will say, okay, I'll take your POI, and they will unmute themselves then and ask me the question in 15 seconds. If they don't end it in 15 seconds, I will just say, okay, I can't take your question. You're eating into my time, and stop them. Now, if I don't want to take the POI, I will either just ignore it, I will allow it to keep coming in the chat, not respond to it. But it's better to say that, hey, I will not be taking any POIs in my speech, or that I will be taking this POI after 4th minute or after I have made this point. So you can decline and clarify when you would like to take the POI or if you would like to take the POI at all. Okay. It's not compulsory to take a POI, but it's good if you take it, because if you respond well to a POI, then you get better speaker scores. Only if you respond well. Also, if you ask a good POI, it does not lead to better marks, but it just makes your case stronger. So there is no deduction or increase of marks that's involved in asking or answering POIs, but it's a good sort of engagement because that's required in the debate. Okay. for you to be able to talk to all the teams and not just the team that you're clashing with. No, POI cannot be replied to in the chat. It can also not be asked on the chat. Can you give an example of a POI? POI is a question. So, for example, I ask you, how are women safe on your side of the house? That's a POI. That's a question I can ask the other team. And will the POI be included in the speech time? Yes, please. That's what I meant by protected and unprotected time. Your first and the last minute is protected. In the rest of your time, you can be asked a POI, and yes, your time will still be ticking. So if I decline a POI, marks don't change. Yeah, they don't change. But if you respond well to that POI, maybe your marks change for the better. All right. I think that's it. You already have the deck with you. You will have access to this. You will have access to recording. I don't think life should be a problem at all as far as this tournament is concerned once you have these recordings and decks. If I could, okay, let me just see.
Just give them a minute to ask all the questions. For students who can't find their teams, you can stay back, but just let's take 2 minutes to ask any questions that you have so far on what ma'am has discussed. So
Also,
yeah,
we are done with what we wanted to cover today. So those of you who want to drop from the call, thank you so much for joining in. You can now leave and join us tomorrow.
Ma'am, by when will we get the recording?
Thank you, ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Nobody
On the
unmute.
chat.
You're
On
welcome.
the chat.
You don't have to thank me either by unmuting. You're welcome. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. So put your questions on the chat. Put it on the chat. There's a reason why we do it this way so that we know how much you are understanding. Diksha, maybe you can clarify the questions that have come on the POIs.
Yeah. All right. I'll take the questions. Can we have less activity on the chat, please, now? Let's just deal with these questions first. No, rhetorical questions are not allowed. Are not allowed. Logical questions only. Sanvi, you can ask a POI to the teams that are obviously against you. So if you're on government side, you will be asking opposition teams at the POI, right? So if you watch the recording again, you'll understand. But if you're OG, you ask OO and CO POI because OO and CO are opposition, right? So if you're government, you ask opposition teams a POI. If you're opposition, you ask government teams a POI. Wouldn't it affect the flow of the speaker? Yes, it would affect the flow of the speaker, but that's how it is in VB formats. Can both the teammates be at the same place during the debate? Yeah, that's not an issue with us. Can we ask a question based on something said in the protected time? Yes, please, you're allowed to. What if someone said that they'll take the POI in the end? So will they be allowed? No, they can't take the POI in the protected time. So they can't be saying that they'll be taking it at the end. Also, one can say that I'll take the POI and then end up not taking it. We can't hold it against them. It's okay to decline a POI and never take it. All right, thank you. Bye. Can we use rhetorical? Okay, that's a repeat question. Since we aren't allowed to use stats, you mentioned that we can use our own experiences in our argument. So if the examples make sense, will we be marked or there will be no mark? No. Yeah, personal examples will carry marks. Sure. Can we ask a POI in the middle of a speech? Sure. Can we use rhetoric? Okay, Aryan, I'm not going to be responding to your questions tomorrow onwards because you repeat.
Aryan, don't repeat your questions, dear. Okay.
Can,
just don't ask the POI in the protected time, which is the first minute and last minute, giving respect to the speaker.
Can CG give OG a rebuttal because they're technically going against each other? Yeah, you're technically going against each other, but you can't rebut your OG because they're still on the same side. You can prove you're better than them without rebutting them. If you're rebutting them, that's knifing. Where can we get yesterday's recording on the WhatsApp group? Whom to ask? Yeah. Whom to ask POI and when? Well, you're going to have to watch the recording from the part which explains POIs at length because
I like Navya's question. Navya, you can't. Actually, you can just look at Navya's question, Nitiksha.
where is I mean
done?
I'm really up in the chat right now, so
Okay, then you carry your sequence. That's fine.
yeah, how is a POI different from a rebuttal? Well, in a rebuttal is a response. A POI is a question. So question and so in rebuttals you clarify why you are not at fault. In POIs you ask the other person about thing and tell the other person that there's something wrong with your case. So that's the difference. how many POIs can one individual ask? Well, you should only ask like 2, 3, okay? Because if somebody is not taking if a POI, even when you ask twice or thrice, it means they don't intend to take. Please don't badger people with repeated efforts at asking a POI. If I conclude early, then can I yield my meaning? No, you can't yield your time to your teammates. That's definitely not happening. Can we ask a PO? Can we ask a POI, Viraj? What is that question? Can I decline a POI and marks don't change? Yeah, they don't change. And will the POI be included in the speech time? Yes, please. Okay, let's see. No, you can't respond to a POI in chat. Okay, repeat questions. Let's go down. How to acknowledge a POI? Just say, yes, I will take your POI, or no, I don't feel like taking your POI. I had a concern regarding teams. Apurva will look at that separately. Can we get yesterday's recording on the WhatsApp group, please? I will share it. How many POIs can someone take? See, ideally, you should only take one POI per speech. That's a lot to take. Don't get into taking a lot of POIs. That just derails your speech. Take one per speech. That's enough. What happens if the CG knifes OG? Will it then affect the OG? No, OG is not affected. That's all right. I mean, it's CG's fault then. Ma'am, how to prevent getting distracted from speech while answering POIs? You can, that's why, like I said, you can say that I will not take the POI right now. I will take the POI once I have made this point. So finish the point you were making and then take the POI. That way you won't be distracted. This is why we give you the option to decline a POI, right? If you feel you're too scared by the POI, don't take it. Can CG give OG? Okay, this is all repeat questions again. Cool. Yeah, you can ignore the POIs. You're free to. Abana, 3 teams will qualify. Also, very fundamental questions. You need to go back to the recordings.
Okay, I can
All
stop
right.
recording now, Nitiksha. And the teams who want to just have a quick chat, you can stay back. Ujjwal's asking a question, Nitiksha.
Okay, can we retroactively take a POI that you have previously declined? No, you can't retroactively take a POI. All right, then I think we'll see you all tomorrow for the final.